Because we're live.
And we're live. And we're live. And we're live. What's up, y'all? I know you didn't know we were coming because I didn't know we were coming that strong. But we're live in living color. So do me a favor, before we get into this thing, you know what it is. Share this out on your network. Let's start this thing off right. I want to make sure we're getting some engagement. I know that everybody is not here yet, but let's get it going. Okay, I see some things moving over here on this side. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to 7 Generations Black. 7 Generations Black is the podcast powered to equip, inform, and clear your lens. Present you with a new perspective with my guy, Theo E.J. Wilson, H. Soul, Lethal, and Jice Johnson. And of course, I'm your host, Shay J. We are 7 Generations Black. Welcome. Thank you guys for tuning in. You're in season 2 of 7 Generations Black. If you don't know, we are here for you every Tuesday, 4 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And this is a podcast for you. It's for the culture. So again, make sure you share this out. If you haven't had a chance, go over to YouTube. Find us at CTN Media because we're changing the narrative and we're doing it with you. Keep supporting independent Black media. Today's topic, like many topics, it of course requires a red pill alert. We're going to be talking about the sustainability of the Black family, but I can't get into it without giving you, the red pill alert. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. This is your opportunity to stop listening and tune out now. Well, if you do, the story ends, and you wake up in your bed and believe whatever it is you want to believe. However, if you take this 7 Generations red pill, you stay here with us in a liberatory discussion, and we show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. You know what it is. The choice is always yours. Welcome to 7 Generations Black. Again, let me introduce you to my amazing panel. My guy from Shop Talk Live, Theo E.J. Wilson. What's up, bro?
What's happening with you?
What's happening? The Honorable Protector Initiative, the one and only Lethal. I see you with the legacy tee. Always repping tees up. We have to start getting you a t-shirt sponsor as much as you're doing with the t-shirts. Like, you're in there. My guy from the Righteous Reg Institute, H. Soul. And my partner in purpose, the one and only Black Business Initiative CVO, Jice Johnson.
What's up?
What's up? So today, we're going to get in there. When we start thinking about this, if nothing else, though, Obama showed us an amazing example of Black love on a national stage. It was a beautiful thing for all of us to see. We might not all agree with the politics, but the example that Black love exists in abundance, it was beautiful. It bombarded all the negative connotations, the stereotypes, the fatherless home, the divided Black man and woman. We could see a woman and a man standing side by side, complimenting each other. But we know the family is complicated. We must now talk about it from a 7 generational lens because that's what we're here to do. The Black family. Is the Black family sustainable? What does it look like? What is the future of the Black family? And again, we already said the red pill alert. Share this out on your network. Let's get into the conversation. I'm excited about this conversation. I think there's so many things, so many ways we can go with this. And first, just kicking it off and talking about the sustainability of the Black family. So when we talk about what is the Black family, because now, let's be real, when we start saying the Black family, there's all these different ideas that are in the air. There's so many different ways to look at that. What is the Black family structure when we talk about it in this sense?
Is there a Black family structure anymore?
Ooh, red pill. Is there a Black family structure?
Is there any family structure?
Is there
Black family structure, but is there a family structure anymore?
Of course there are. Children can't raise themselves. Of course there's a Black family structure. It's just what our judgments of them are. That's what we're actually struggling with. Kids can't raise themselves. Somebody's going to the grocery store and getting their Fruit Loops. So somebody is raising these kids. And I think that we are grappling with, does nuclear family work for Black folks? Is the fact that it is broken down for us all bad? Or is it an opportunity for us to redefine what the Black family looks like and perhaps recontextualize our families in our original context from the continent that was taken away from us.
Come on now.
So you have to understand that nuclear families as we know them in the Judeo-Christian sense are virtually non-existent pre-colonial Africa. There's just, and the reason why this is relevant is because we're the oldest people on earth, like by several times, by 5 times. We are 5 times as ancient as anyone else on the planet. Meaning we had to figure this family thing out, and whatever was working, worked fine, it lasts a long time, okay? And so these opportunities are broken down, a lot of it due to oppressive forces. But now we're asking, what can we do with it? Are we trying to rebuild what was lost, or should we take this opportunity to recreate something that is more effective given our new variables?
Well, now I'm getting some important things. And go ahead, Jice.
No, I was also going to say, I think you mentioned like pre-colonial, and I think even after that, like the circumstances that we were under kind of made it where we didn't have that, that westernized idea of family. And I grew up in that family structure. My parents have been married, headed on 40 years, right? So I've had some amazing examples of 2 people who have been able to not only walk through life together, but also raise children together and build wealth together, generational wealth together. But, I also think about that space of like, we got aunties, we got cousins, right? We got, extended family members. We got family members. We're not quite sure how they fit in the family, right? All of those things where, there's, my kids being here in Colorado, they see Shay more than they see their actual auntie. So when I say they're Auntie Shay, like, oh, Auntie Shay, I'm like, no, actually, my sister, your other auntie. So I think that we've had that dynamic for so long, simply from the way that the plantations were, that movement shifted us around, and we had to create family where we could and how we could.
Absolutely. And I think that's just an important part, especially with us, being 7 generations Black and how we started to speak on this. Just even identifying that Black people, we have been a people of family. A lot of people have became family out of circumstance, or out of how they have taught us or came in positions and fulfilled them. And so I think Black people as a whole, we've always recognized that and really kind of created what family looks like for us. And how can you have structure when most families are broken? How can you have structures when most families are broken?
And I think that's kind of what we're talking about. What makes a broken family?
Broken in the definition of what? Because Greater White America has defined a broken home as a home where the mother and father are not there, not married, right? One partner is gone. That's a broken home, but that doesn't mean the family doesn't have any structure. There's going to be a family structure regardless. Remember, children can't raise themselves. So something's going on. If the kid is alive, there's a structure there. It may not be optimal, but there's a structure there. So now we have to figure out what the proper way to restructure the family is, and for maximum efficiency. And do you want to have the hard conversations about what that really, really looks like?
No.
So maybe that's the question.
You really want to have that conversation?
Well, I mean, we should have that conversation, but Black folks don't really want to have that conversation.
Why don't they want to have a conversation, Soul? Why don't they want to have it?
Because they are caught up in the Michelle Obama, Barack Obama love affair, romantic, Bill Cosby show, Cinderella. Listen, let's be very clear. The current structure of family does not work for white folks, much less for Black folks.
Uh-oh.
All Black folks are doing, they are simply aping the culture of the people that owned them and dominated them, and it doesn't work for them. But we still operate and expect for this type of family structure to work for us, and then we function with each other, and we get angry at each other, and we label each other based upon our failure to live up to these unrealistic ideas of the ideal family, when in truth, it was always bullshit. The nuclear family was always bullshit. Listen, if the nuclear family wasn't always bullshit, then tell me, why is there a word in English for mistress? Why does the word even exist? Why is it edified inside of that language? It's edified inside of that language because it always existed. More than one partner has always existed in European society, but when it's outward facing or it shows the veneer of this nuclear family, it's a lie to them. So what would it be for us when we're trying to attain it? And so because of that, we are caught up into this negative cycle of trying to live an ideal that is just pure fantasy.
So I think you hit on so many things, and this is why we read the red pill alert. So those of you that are triggered or red pill, this is why we hit on that. When you start to say that, what we reimagining what love looks like and reimagining what works for you and really reimagining that. How do we look at that in a 7-generational lens to start identifying what that family structure can be in order to thrive, in order to be in a space where people say this is something that we can build off of generations to come? What does that look like?
So I would say that we need to begin building our families and stop and Lethal. This is right up Lethal's vein. We need to build our families as survival structures where they are optimal for our survival. And that is collective. That's what they were. That's what they were for us on the continent. That's what they were for the indigenous people here. That's what they've been for indigenous people all over the planet, is that they are survival structures, not romantic structures. If you even look at the word romance, the Romans, they didn't even really, these are the same people that built gymnasiums. So we can't even use that as our foundation for the way that we should function to build family, right? The Romans were, if you look at what romance was, it was just to entice women into a system of oppression, which was, that's all it was. And flowers, candy, songs, poems, that was all just until you got to wedding night and she became your property. So what are we emulating when we even pick up, I want him to be more romantic? All you're saying is I want him to bullshit me some more until I give up the panties. And then when that happens, he better take care of me. And then, there's a whole host of ideas that go.
Lethal, I want you to piggyback on what Soul was just saying. I would love to hear your take, especially with the. Okay, but let me ask you this. What does it mean right now, for better or for worse? What does that mean in the Black family structure? What does that even mean? Does that hold any weight?
Okay, so I think, excuse me, I'm a little bit, I don't know, hoarse, whatever the case may be. But I think before we can talk about that piece, what it means for better or for worse, I think it's important to take a look at those external influencers that are impacting why families are broken and why, in my opinion, for better or worse, don't mean shit. You know what I'm saying? And I jotted down a couple of what I think are some influencers, right? The fourth estate. We all know what the fourth estate is. So so there's 4 estates with regards to a democracy or government, right? Or governance of a society, right? It's the noble class, it's the clergy, it's the commoners, and then for us here in this society, it's the news and the media.
Yeah.
On one hand, the left hand, right? We always talk about how Black people, especially the Black family, Black fathers, Black mothers, right, have all these negative stereotypes associated with them, right? Black fathers, we are some dogs. Black mothers, you are some welfare queens, and our Black children are just lawless. You understand what I'm saying? That's on the left hand, right? But then on the right hand, they show us all these fucking soap operas. And we want to emulate that shit. And we don't take into consideration that maybe that's just some propagandized bullshit. You understand what I'm saying? So, but we can't have it both ways, right? And so we have to be honest with ourselves and take a look at those things that we have allowed to influence us. You see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna tell you a story. We in Shop Talk, we did this topic, right? About stereotypes that impact the relationship between the black man and the black woman, right? We did it here in the DMV, okay? We showed, right, and proved based off of data, hard data from organizations that we know as a community have not been friendly to us. I'm talking about the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Census Bureau, right? And what they revealed is this, okay? 90% of black people, when they get married, they marry black people. You know what I'm saying? 90%, right? Right, and I'm not knocking our sisters. Right? But the sisters who were present, right? All they wanted to focus on was the fucking 10% that are shown to them in the media, the fourth estate, which has a role and a purpose to play in breaking our will to have the family structure that we need to survive in this enemy's territory. You understand what I'm saying? And no matter how much all of us brothers in the Shop Talk DMV who are either dating and or married to a black woman, the sisters who were present didn't give a fuck about that. What they chose to do, hold on. What they chose to do was this. And I heard this the other day from the sister Vicky Dillard, right? What she said was this: we major in minor and we minor in the major. Well, what she meant by that was 90% of us, when we marry each other. But all we want to focus on is 10%. Somebody please tell me, when has 10% ever been greater than 90%?
You better come through, Lethal.
So why are we on?
If you live in Denver, you see the 8, you see all the time.
But it's like every day, because you're right. Denver is its own special place. But the propaganda is real though, because that number, that 10% number is going up. That 90% is going down. Mm-hmm. And that trend is happening, and it's happening because of the propaganda in media.
Wait, what?
Hold on, H. I understand that, right? But we spend so much time complaining about the I don't give a 20%. We spend so much time as people allowing ourselves as black men and black women to be divided, arguing over the fucking worthless 20% instead of praising and honoring and bigging up the worthy 80%.
So I think the reason why, I think I can answer the reason why. The reason why black women and the greater black community have an issue with it is because I'm sure if you look at the 10% that are choosing to marry outside, these are the most upwardly mobile of this ain't, you know, no, I'm saying that's what they see.
That's what we see.
Yeah, they see Kanye. They see.
Define to me what you mean by upwardly mobile, because I'm going to tell you right now, the statistics that I quoted to you, right?
What I'm saying, Lethal, this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there's any. I'm saying whether there's truth to it or not. What I'm saying is that the 10% that they show, they ain't showing Crip gang members marrying white women. What they're showing are people who are successful in society in order to achieve that success. So black women are resentful of the fact that if you look at a lot of these football players, you look at the basketball players, you look at the entertainers, they have a higher percentage inside of those groups of black men marrying white women than you do in the greater society. And that's a reason to have and take issue with black men for making that choice.
I don't disagree with you on that. I don't disagree with you on that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that that is coming from the fourth estate.
I agree.
We can't say Thank you. Yes.
That's what makes it propaganda, is because it's influencing a thought process and a pattern. Yes. It is influencing the idea that white ice is colder, white women are better, black women are inferior. And it is saying that in order for you to reach this level, or when you reach this level, the next thing you need to have on your arm is Becky or Karen.
Karen Beckenberg. Who we want.
And I think you guys are hitting into the next place where I want to go with this, because I think you're hitting something huge. when we start thinking about it. So I'm so glad you brought that point up, because a lot of the times that's what we're looking at. We're saying the bulk of, when our Black men do obtain a certain amount of wealth, a lot of women don't have access to these men, Black women especially. So when we start talking about what it looks like financially and to build legacy, this is when you start looking and rolling your eyes and snapping your neck a little bit when you see that this is going right back to the white neighborhood immediately because he's married into the white family.
Let's add another dynamic on, because I just heard him say I disagree and I want to hear his dissent, but let's add another layer onto that, right? Because Black women are elevating themselves with or without men. Like, boom. Right? So we're more educated. We're starting more businesses. We're elevating. I'm in the singles group online. I literally asked about how men felt about Black women who were CEOs and bosses. And it wasn't every Black man, but when you talk about like where you put your focus, right? There were a significant number of Black men who were like, oh, well, she want to be a man. I don't need that. I'm not looking for a leader. As long as she don't throw, she's a boss up in my face. I'm like, what does any of that mean? Like, where is the mentality of Black men?
Okay.
Rise of Black women.
Well, can we stop? Can we stop calling these boys men and call them what they are, males? So there is a male and a man. Okay, let's stop calling these boys men, right? Yes. As a man, I take offense to a boy being put in my category.
Woo! Wait, do me a favor. Everybody needs you to stop what you're doing. Share this out on your network. Hey, conversation gets good. You're dropping something. Share this out.
Stop doing that. Stop putting us all in the same category.
I'm with that. And I think that's a very key distinction. And I feel like that is a super key distinction. And I think it's hard to make that distinction at times because of the way that we see adulthood. And that can go into so many different layers and levels, because we're not healed. We haven't matured. We haven't done a whole lot of things, but yet we are adults.
So Jice, I would want to challenge you on this idea that Black women have made it because they've made it on their own. Like, I want to be very clear about this. They have made it because of the gains that we made as a people through the civil rights era, which had Black men shedding their blood and getting bit by dogs and foregoing. So Black women have done it no more on their own than Black men have done it on their own, whether that means climbing the corporate ladder or whether that means ending up in prisons. So I would be mindful of this language that Black women have done it on their own and we the most educated, because Black people as a whole were getting water hose, we were getting bit together, we picked cotton together, we did all that together. So there's no need to feed into the language that somehow Black women have miraculously by themselves without the Black man raised themselves up into the positions that they occupy inside of white society.
And that's our new reflection from Theo E.J. Wilson.
Right, I'm like, I need you to have another contribution to the conversation. So wait, I stand corrected because I didn't mean it in that way. You're absolutely right on that. So I stand corrected. What I will say, or the way that I'm really framing it, is when we're talking about that dynamic, right? So when we are looking at the dynamic of Black men and Black women, and where there's this divide, and you see the rise of Black men, and again, it's not everyone, but what's being highlighted in the media and what is being put in our face are prominent Black men with Becky. And what I'm saying is that what is that Black women are also building their own prominence. And so in terms of college education, which I don't count that for shit, so let me just say that, but in terms of American standards, right? Black education, college degree obtaining, climbing corporate ladders and starting businesses, Black women are and have shot past Black men, right? So there's this rise of what it looks like to be a Black woman. And when we talk about that divide, that prominence that Black women are gaining has been a source of contention between the Black and the Black women.
Yes.
Okay, can I please hop into this?
Yes, will you please, Theo E.J. Wilson? I would love to hear from you. And remember, I want to go down this route too of how we create legacy. We've got the great legacy in finances and what that looks like. Go ahead, Theo.
So she said contribute something else besides musical selections, and here I go.
Thank you, sir.
First of all, so the reason why those insecure brothers were speaking like that is because it's very interesting. The things that attract men are not things that men have. You feel me? Like, we're not attracted to power, status, and achievement like that. We're attracted to, biologically speaking, like firm asses and like fecund wombs. That's what we like.
You see what I'm saying? Fecund wombs. Listen, are we taping this? My man said fecund wombs up in this mug.
Straight up.
Go ahead.
This is 7 Generations Black, everyone.
And that is by design. So what we see is that there's this cultural push for Black women to achieve a worth that is traditionally defined in the terms of masculine energy achievement. You see what I'm saying? It's an energetic thing. Now, what these brothers need to understand is that masculine and feminine exists in both genders. Just what it is. Absolutely. And so that doesn't need to intimidate you. What you need to understand is that, like, if that is the person who is securing that part of the legacy, you need to go ahead and hook your cart to that individual and then do your best to keep yourself strong and worthy to be hooked to that individual. You see what I'm saying? So that's no excuse to be a Rudy poo. You still got to do your thing. You still got to like climb. What I think Black women are unconsciously trying to do is call forth the broken masculinity in men. They're trying to call it forth. They're trying to like literally evoke it out of us so that we like, there's just certain women you can't be with unless you are intentionally about stepping your game up. You can't even step to them. And if you feel that challenge, you should embrace that challenge and rise to that challenge because it's only going to make you better, right? Not hide it with all this toxic bullshit excuses that are really just covering up the fact that your fucking intelligence intimidates you. Just say that shit. Or read a book, my nigga. Or that. See what I'm saying? So what that means is that if she's the one at this point in time securing the funds for 7 generations, if she's the one that can get that going, then do that. My father, before he started A Private Guide Incorporated, was laid off from Lockheed Martin. So for like 4 or 5 years, my mom's was the only one making money, right? While he was building his business, which is now in the Hall of Fame in Colorado, right? Largest Black-owned tour guiding service in the Rocky Mountain region, right? That's the legacy that I come from. But before that shit, my father still showed his masculinity in the fact that he was the wisest and strongest one in the house. That's what it was. See what I'm saying? Like, he's the one who kept structure for the kids. Like me and Sydney, we just knew what it was, right? With my dad not making a dime, he was still the man of the house because of who he is. And if you're not ready to be that guy, then you won't actually have the character to become the breadwinner again. You see what I'm saying? And that's what you need to look at. And if Black women's success is challenging that, step up to the fucking plate. Embrace that challenge.
Let me add something to that real quick. Let me add something to that, right? You mentioned adulthood, and I kind of cringe with that, right?
Go ahead, Leo.
Listen. To enter into adulthood, all you need to do is reach a certain age and take care of certain society established responsibilities, right? That doesn't make you a man. And there's a difference between adulthood and manhood and adulthood and womanhood. You see what I'm saying? And what I'm getting at is this. I think we as a people need to basically disconnect from, this societal structure, right? As best as we can, and go with what's in here, and never forget and pay attention to. I don't want you to think I'm pointing to Jay-Z. I'm gonna do this hand. Never forget and pay attention to our elders and ancestors who paved the way for us to get to where we are, and we need to use them as examples, as opposed to relying on data and information and images and propaganda that's shoved in our face from an enemy, right? That we know we cannot trust, right? If you know that we cannot trust this enemy of ours, but yet you are allowing this enemy to influence you, what does that say about you?
So I agree with that. I agree with all of that, but I also think that there is an underestimation, not that you're necessarily underestimating, right? But there's an overall underestimation of propaganda. Like, if you're aware of propaganda, it's easy to see. It's easy to spot. You can sort of filter through that, right? When you're not even aware of propaganda, I think we don't even necessarily recognize like how much of an effect that it has. Even if you don't get propaganda, like even if you take a 101, maybe a 201, 301 level marketing class and understand why branding and marketing is this multi-billion-dollar industry, why it matters for McDonald's to stick a billboard on your drive home, like how much that influences the way that we think, then it's easy for us to, just kind of toss to the wind, like you should know better, right? And so it even hurts people's feelings when I say things like, only a fool would let your enemy. What's Malcolm said? Only a fool will let your enemy educate your children, right? And then you see all the people who got their kids in public school. It's like there's a part of you that has to cut that off because that cuts so deep. And you're like, oh, I can't really, like mentally, I think we do some of those things to protect ourselves and to protect the state that we're in. So it's not that you're wrong, but I think sometimes we give too much credit to what we should be able to do because our human behavior says that we're not able to do that.
Well, see, we need to be aware because that's called the backfire effect. And if anybody out there doesn't know what the backfire effect is, you should look that up.
Yeah, I think to Jice's point, though.
Yeah.
We all don't know until we know, right? And when you know better, you do better. And so I think to Jice's point, and I just saw this show on Netflix around social media and how much we are drawn into our telephones and right. And how it's tapped into our reptilian brain, and how little like the goal of media is to pass by your frontal lobe altogether, and go right into the subconscious. So we can't, it's very difficult to hold a society to a higher standard of what you should be woke and this is what a man looks like and if there's no counter messaging to help draw people out of that. And let's be very clear, I grew up and came of age in the 90s, so that's Dr. Amos Wilson, that's Dr. John Henry Clark, that's Naeem Akbar, that's Wilson, that's right, Marimba Ani. There was a plethora of Black media that was waking and built to wake up and inform that population of people that, for the most part, has disappeared now. And so, or should I even say it's dissipated because there's so many channels now.
Yes.
To fall into, and so I would be. It's very easy to, and I agree with Jice on this point. It's very easy for us to over critique a people who have been inundated and targeted so massively by the machine, where we have to give grace to each other in that sense. It is all I would add to that. I don't disagree with anything though.
I think that's good. You guys have also some key points because we know we have viewers that are tapping in from one area and someone's on a different level. And so this is why we have all these different perspectives. And we hope we're starting to shift some things around in your mind and just think about what this looks like. When we start to think about, is it the Black family? Is it sustainable? What does it look like for us to really start building legacy? One of the biggest things when we talked about 7 generations was how do we create legacy? How do we create generational wealth? And, one thing I really realized when I was younger, I seen a lot of those strong ethics where I seen a lot of Black families that were like, this is our Black business, and then we're going to pass it down, and then we're going to do this. And there were all these things that were happening. We don't see that as much now. We know media plays a big part of the portrayal of that. But how do we start to look at legacy and finances and putting it together? And maybe if it's not in the general family structure, but in a different structure that we deem necessary for survival, how do we start looking at that?
So let me just get a clarification on the question. Does this conversation presume that the only way to build 7 generations of wealth is if you are with a Black woman and not a white woman? Or is that here?
You want to go?
Well, so I don't know what type of conversation you're trying to have now.
I know is that all the Black organizations in Denver was high-fiving and clapping and doing the mollywop when we had a councilman who had gentrified his own bedroom, but yet he was able to be everywhere and anywhere and held up as the Black pentacle. So I'm saying, can we be consistent here? If we do it with white women, then let's not shade homeboy. But if we're saying that the Black family matters, then why are we promoting or high-fiving or saying, yeah, this is awesome when that occurs? Can we get some consistency on definition, please?
Yes, Black family.
Thank you. Right. I am the Black family right now. And I'm because of 7 generations Black. This is about the Black family. Okay. And whatever that looks like for your family.
So the children are considered Black, right?
Right.
So
that's a mixed family. That's mixed.
I don't remember. See, Black people don't do that mixed shit. We just call them light-skinned cats that show up in the schoolyard, right? We don't say, "Oh, you're mixed," or
no, they're mixed. They have the white lady in the house, so that's a mixed family.
Let's be realistic, though, man. We never considered nobody who was mixed to be other than Black until like the last 2 decades, bro. Like Black has always been an inclusive category since the plantation. You can read Frederick Douglass's writings on that, who himself was the son of the slave master. You see what I'm saying? Like, if
and married a white woman, but continue.
Like, yeah. Well, no, we're not going to do that route anymore. Okay.
Right. I was like, you can't just throw that out there, especially with people who don't know.
I take that back. Continue.
Specifically,
I see that right there.
Mixed people have not been considered anything other than Black because white people wouldn't let them in. Let's be clear about that. If you was a mongrel, you were a mud people if you were mixed. You see what I'm saying? There was a law that said a Black woman and her progeny are slaves. No matter who fathered it, the progeny. So this is how we got all these colors. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's why my just came up. I'm 2% Swedish or some shit. I didn't think that, you know what I'm saying? But apparently one of the freaking colonizers had some Swedish blood, and that's why my nose is pointy. But the bottom line is that, like, we have to figure out.
Listen.
And so I think when I was having the separation, let me just be clear on this real fast. So the separation that I was creating was, we were talking about the Black family. Now, when you enter a white woman in the Black family, for me, that's a mixed family. Not the kids, but this family is now mixed because it's a Black man, a white woman, and some Black kids. So there's a mix.
Or the other way around.
If we're saying that
or the other way around.
If we're saying if the children are Black because they have Black in them,
they're Black. We know that.
Wouldn't the white woman be Black too, since she's technically had?
No. Shut the hell up with that. That's crazy.
Shut up.
That's crazy.
Right. So I would just keep. he just brought your all together. Like, knock it off. We've had enough Rachel Dolezals and all of her proteges popping up since then.
Right.
Right, get it together, sir. That's what somebody said to you. Like, get it together.
Yes, get it together, so.
So I keep saying this because let me see who put, I think it was Misha. She said, she said when he dies, he's bam. Wait.
That's the part. That's the part.
Bam. Okay. So here's the thing. I keep trying to say I already did a whole thing about Becky being bad for the bottom line. Here's the thing. I always have, because I keep it real. When I talk about Black families, I'm talking about a Black man, a Black woman. That's what I'm talking about. Or if you don't subscribe to men and women, Black men, whatever. But I'm talking about Black partners and their Black children. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I know, first of all, living in Denver, you cannot, and then also previously I lived in Tacoma area. So up in like Seattle, Tacoma, there's a lot of mixed couples out there as well. So I know a ton of mixed couples, and it becomes this sore spot, right? And so I just stick to what I stick to, which is my convictions about Black families. And being built in that space. But I always respect people where they are, right? So I can respect you, and I can respect your family, and I can respect whatever it is that you've built, right? But when I'm talking about what it looks like to build 7 generations Black, I'm talking about a Black man and a Black woman.
Come on now.
That being said, Becky is bad for the bottom line, and there's a difference between Becky and Brad, and I think those things are important in terms of legacy. So if we're going to address legacy, first, let's talk about the fact that reparations is now a hot topic in the current landscape, as they are continuing to promote biracial relationships everywhere. So who is controlling the dollars in the instance that a Black man and Black woman split? Because here's the thing. We talk about Black women being left without Black men, but statistics actually show that Black men leave white women in equal numbers. So really there's an issue that Black men have to heal around relationships and women have to heal around relationships, because I saw Soul's indignation. But Black men are not, even if Black men are getting into relationships with white women, Black men are not necessarily staying in those relationships. So the divorce rate is still relatively high in that space, right? So then what is happening is you have white women who have control of Black children. If we were to go down the route of American descendants of slavery or foundational Black Americans, when we're discussing the idea around reparations, who would then be entitled to control reparations for those Black kids? White women.
Come on, Jice.
But white women would be in a significant amount of control of reparation dollars over Black children. Let's start with that.
I would say the Black parents should have, because like realistically, I think that's obvious. Like, I don't give a fuck what goddamn Swedish, Slavic, German, American parent they have. That ain't ADOS. That ain't foundational. I think the foundation that actually should be written and codified into whatever reparation law come down.
But that's not accurate. If your father is foundational Black American or an American descendant of slavery, you are in fact an American descendant of slavery.
Right, and whoever gets the damn reparations inheritance should be decided by the parent who is part of that lineage, not the non-lineage parent. Just that's what I have to say about that. But wow. I think but Jice, I want to validate your point here. Just as a man, we look at about like 70% of divorces are initiated by women, you know what I mean? And it's a little bit higher in the white community than it is in ours, actually. Mm-hmm. And Soul brings up a great point. Like that divorce and split his bucks is a great hustle. Like all you have to do is have some WAP and a nice rear end and have a couple kids, and then you get $500,000 of like.
Did you say WAP?
He did.
Yeah.
That's the shirt for next week, by the way. I'm sending it out there. Get ready for it.
That's all you got to have? Some of this? That's it? Everyone else is good?
Was that a sound effect?
$1 million? That's a sweet-ass hustle. You know what I'm saying? So as long as the system rewards that, then we are actually at a disadvantage. It's interracial crossover. You're gonna look at Dr. Dre is losing some foundational Black wealth.
He don't care. It was blood money anyway. So, but the point is, I'm sorry. I see you, my sister. Go ahead and ask the question before I say something.
No, I think that there's more in this than we had even anticipated when we start even thinking about the foundation of what a family is, what the structure is. Is it still a Black family when we insert white, when we insert kind of white, when we insert whatever white? There's so many questions in that aspect. So I think when I started looking at too, one thing that hit me really big in the beginning is when you started talking about, we are trying to be on a system that was not made for us. We're playing a game that was not fit for us to play. It's just like if you come with checker pieces and this is a chessboard and, all those things, it has to fit to make sense. So when we start looking at infidelity, monogamy, polygamy, and just looking at those threats.
She didn't want
I don't know about no
word of whatever, that other shit that
all that other shit y'all be doing.
I told you that was subconscious shade.
That shit y'all be doing. How do we How do we look at this, and how do we have a structure that lasts, and how do we have these conversations so that we're having honest conversations? I think the biggest problem is that, like you said, everything has been sped to us about what we should like, what we should accept, how this marriage certificate should look. I remember one of the things I would say a long time ago was that the government had never been for me, so I didn't want to get married on paper. Like, I wanted to sit down with my business consultant, my business lawyers, because they're the only people that have ever had my back, and that's how I want my contract to look.
I'm jumping some rooms.
Who are you marrying? No one's going to marry you like that. I'm like, well, that's my reality. But how do we start to look at this when we say, family structures are losing, but they're losing because they're playing a game that wasn't meant for them to play? How do we get them in a space of finding what works for them, and then being able to say, hey, if we had some bumps along the road, it doesn't mean we call it quits.
Well, Black people shouldn't even be talking about getting married right now. Until get to the point where
you done fucked them my whole life. That's exactly what
until we get to the point where we've done some healing. Because what we really do is take our trauma and then we double the trauma, and then we Wonder Twins activate our trauma and create loud ass kids, right? And so with arm action today. Listen, I'm learning.
I felt that in my soul. Like,
right?
I was like, are you pointing fingers at people? What is going on?
Somebody just called it, and I love it. They called it trauma bonding. And that's what people are really into doing right now when we couple with each other. Is that, like, I don't know if any of you have seen this right now, but there's this theme or trend happening on social media and TikTok where you have grown men who are getting fed their dinners to them by Black women, and they're sitting there and they're just sitting there, and the woman he's like, I want chicken now, and she picks up the chicken and puts it in his mouth and he bites. Y'all ain't seen that shit?
No.
Oh man.
No, nigga. No.
It's round, and I'm like, that's damage. Like, we're so injured and hurt as a people that my uncle would say, if white folks disappeared yesterday, we would need a good 200 to 250 years to decolonize, because all we would do is replicate the plantation over and over again. And the same is true for relationships. And actually, if you studied Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and her mentor, they will tell you that Black people shouldn't even talk about the fact that they're married, because marriage happens between two sovereign individuals who have their own space, they control their lives, right? And so anybody else that's doing that is just playing house, right? Because you don't control shit, right? And to your point, Shay, you got to go downtown to some white folks to verify, right? That's all pretend. That's house. So Black people are just playing house right now. And it's a
revenue stream for the government.
So like Nikki said, it was all a dream, right?
Magazine.
Clear about that. And I think that we should spend a great deal of our time focusing on decolonizing ourselves, to Lethal's point. And to that degree, let's be clear. I had my first marriage. I had my children.
Yeah.
What's the value now of me marrying a particular person of a particular race when I'm not going to have children then? What type of, Jice has said loud and clear to anyone coming anywhere within 100 yards that she ain't having no more kids.
So if you ain't got no kids, don't even get in my inbox. It's not happening. Can't even have drinks.
So let me try to do something here, right? Because in order to decolonize ourselves, one of the institutions that must be decolonized is marriage in and of itself. And that is one of those interesting things, because I'm literally with my queen right now, you know what I'm saying? And I feel that there is a spiritual component to this, where it does take place between two souls, right? It does take place between two hearts. And okay, so we don't have the power that white folks have, and We don't have the leverage and the ownership and the property and shit like that. But on a deeper level, all that shit's an illusion anyway. Ownership is an illusion in a universe where we all die and give it all back. This is a fucking library. You know what I'm saying? So let's be real about that. On like the more like on the realest level, I'm being as real as I can, right? My daughter in the next room is a real person, right? And me and my queen's DNA is married in every cell of her body. That's facts.
Yeah.
Okay? And so what goes on in this household is that I've used this relationship as one of my greatest growth tools ever. You see what I'm saying? Because how successful I am in this relationship is diametrically correlated to my ability to gain self-mastery and execute on love and forgiveness, right? And that stuff held slaves together. If you read the story of Charles Ball, the man who escaped his captors and then went and like ran 500 miles to his family, this dude was property, but that spirit marriage in him compelled Charles Ball to do all of that. Then he went back and freed more of his folks. He was the male Harriet Tubman. They don't talk about him, right?
Yeah. But you notice, Theo, you got to go about 200 years, 300 years back, because we were more of a liberated, conscious people when we walked off the plantation than we are today.
And that is a sad irony. That is a sad irony. And that all has to do with our inner strength, right? One thing that I do on my hard days is I think, what would one of my literal sugarcane cutting ancestors from Jamaica make of this day that I had? Right, because my folks were taken to the island in my male bloodline, right? My mom's ADOS, but my daddy's folks is like islanders, right? And they had a different kind of slavery in Jamaica. And I always think about the spirit that was left in them. And that's where we got to turn to a certain extent, because that freedom that the slaves had understood that the systems that the white man had was ultimately illusions anyway. Right? That's that African spirituality. They understood that all of this stuff was temporary. And by the time that they got to the point where they was ready to die for their freedom and run for their freedom, they was free inside long before they made that move.
That's right.
And we got to bring that to the table and understand that this is matrix shit, and we either be Neo or we die.
That's right. I mean? That's a great.
And that goes back to the propaganda, because it's a capturing of your mind, right? So like your body is capable of and taking on enormous amounts of things. It's what happens in your mind, right? So when you think about somebody, I don't know why her name just left me. You know, the
Kim Kardashian.
Woman, huh?
Kim Kardashian.
Really?
That's not what I'm thinking of.
I never think about her. The woman, I don't know why her name has left me right now, but the woman who was put on display, she had
Sarah Barton.
Yeah.
Thank you. I could not remember her name for nothing. But, you know, when you think about that, right, like she died of sadness and heartbreak, right? Like it's not, and then you have people who lived for years and years and decades on the plantation under these incredibly harsh conditions. It's not necessarily what the body can take. It's when they break your mind.
That's
and
right.
I think, what's happening, and when we think about what the future of our Black family looks like, and what the future of what we look like as a community for the next several generations is going to be how we are able to recapture the mind. And shameless plug, that's why Black media is so important, because to those 4 points that, what you call them? Lethal?
Yeah, Lethal, the 4 attributes. Is he froze?
No, he's all try to figure that shit out because he's lethal, man. He's Morpheus. It's up to y'all to figure shit out.
What do they call the 4-way? The 4 estates. Okay, so the 4 estates, one of them in this country being media, because it captures our mind. And so, yeah, absolutely. Like Black media is so important, right? So y'all should, be up in those super chats, making sure that you support Black media. But it's important for us to change that narrative. Like Shay and I were very intentional about this because of how important it is for us to recapture our minds and retell our narratives, because those narratives are so caught up inside of colonialism, inside of the idea of white supremacy, inside of these, concepts and constructs that don't necessarily work for us.
Thank you for that, Jice. No, that's so huge. And yo, you guys are tuning in because you're a part of how we're changing the narrative and why we're changing the narrative. One thing we like to do, though, before we leave you at 7 Generations Black, we like to hit you with a mindset moment because it's all about changing your perspective. Maybe you heard something here today that made you say, and we show you how farther and deep the rabbit hole goes. As we think about the Black family structure, as we think about what it looks like for the future of the Black family, can you all just give me a mindset moment shift to ensure that we have 7 generations of Blackness, 7 generations of wealth, 7 generations of legacy, 7 generations of Black families, because I'm still gonna get married, I'm just gonna do it my way. So we could just give what that mindset moment is. I'm gonna let our honorable protector start us off, Mr. Lethal, if you can hit us with what that looks like.
Okay, so I want everybody to do me a favor. Except for the panel, right?
Okay, I was like,
I want everybody to close their eyes. And I want you to imagine or vision the number 6 on the ground. And it's about 6 feet big, right? And you have one person standing on the bottom of it and one person standing on the other side of the top of it, what will be considered the top of it, right? One person sees the number 9, the other person sees the number 6. You understand what I'm saying? So who's right, who's wrong? I say that to say this from our ancestors. Just because you are right does not mean that they are wrong, right? All it means is that you just haven't seen life from their side.
Thank you for that. Namaste. If I would have known you were going to do that, we would have just ended with that. I didn't have to talk anymore.
Morpheus.
Gee.
Thank you for coming. God bless and good night.
Right, and good night, folks. Like, get your grease cap and go. Like, hair grease and love. All right. Perspective. Yes, mindset moment. Hey, so.
Mindset moment. I really love what Theo said at the end here when he talks about the whole aspect of freeing the mind piece of it. And so, I'm about supporting Black business, but let's not forget that BET was owned by a Black man now who could give a good goddamn about Black people as a whole. So we have to dig a little deeper than just Black, right? So it's not just 7 generations Black. It's a liberated mindset that we're talking about. And with the liberated mindset, I think that opens us up, and we should be open to what that entails, right? And so I love Black love because it's man. Black love is not some easy shit. I see my sister smiling, but y'all know Black love is that shit, man. Like, if you can make that shit work for 40 years, Jice, like, and see, if you just did a backstory of what that 40 years actually was, Lord.
Right.
And I think that's why at some point we have to have a second conversation because, when we talk about what it really means to be in there for better or for worse, and when we talk about what it looks like to really build that legacy and to be able to move through and move through certain things because life is real. But let me not get into your mindset moment. My apologies.
In closing up my mindset moment, I would just say that, that Becky and Karen, they need love and they need, Black people are here to heal the planet. And so, let us be clear that
Yeah, that's a good idea. I would disappear too. That's a good idea. You might have one of the best panels you've ever seen in this world. My girl, Jice Johnson, can you give me your mindset moment for the future of the Black family and to sustain the Black family?
Oh my goodness. I'm too through right now.
That was amazing.
Oh my goodness. What is my mindset moment for all of this? I think my mindset moment is, I think we have to think about legacy. And I think because we have been in such a space, and we've been forced into this space that we are often in this like survival mode and we think about ourselves. And I see that show up in so many places, but I think in order for us to secure our legacy and in order for us to secure the Black family in whatever construct that looks like, I think it requires, you know, for us to spend some time really healing, so that we can move forward generationally without continuing to pass on that trauma inside of our DNA. And we see people talk, you know, about these generational curses, and we say like, it stops here with me. And I think what starts here with me is healing in my DNA and passing that on 7 generations forward.
Thank you for that. That was beautiful. Thank you. My guy, Mr. Shop Talk Live, Theo E.J. Wilson, your mindset moments.
Thank you. I think we have to have the mindset that 7 generations Black could mean that 7 generations from now, Black may not be an applicable term for us, because of the fact that Black is a term that came with colonization. Let's be real. Before we were Black, we were Mandinka and Fulani and Akan and Wolof and Hausa and Mende and all that, right? And so when we reclaim our identity, if we really are about this decolonization, we may shed this very thing known as Black. So we have to figure out what that may look like. That means contingency plans. Like we have to, like anybody who's a planner has contingency plans. And you have to look at the trajectory of our people and see what can you do to make sure that your lineage is shot into that future. You know what I mean? Like I, as a person, you know, when it came to the odds of dating, because, you know, when I was looking, you know, back when I was looking, you know, in a world full of Cardi B's, shall I say, and I got a Malcolm mind, you feel me? Like I got a Malcolm mind trying to sift through Cardis out here. It was very difficult, but what I kept in mind was all I need is one. All I need is one. See what I'm saying? All the odds, these girls beyond it, all I need is one. And there was a few things that I needed, and one of them is being family minded. You know what I'm saying? And with that, with my lineage, I'll say the mindset is be mindful that this term Black may not apply 7 generations from now. What will? What will? And aim for that.
That is beautiful. Remember, this is an amazing family, my 7 generations family. But remember, families like music. There's some high notes and some low notes, but it's always a beautiful song, and it's worth singing, you guys. Family doesn't have to be perfect, but we have to be united to make our next move our best move. This is 7 Generations Black. We're here each and every Tuesday for you. Tune in with us, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If you haven't went over to YouTube, subscribe at CTM Media. And remember, peace and love, family. Until next time, hustle hard for your 7 Generations Black. We appreciate you. Peace.